Hello, welcome to Alyssa Jean's Reviews. This is my review for Star Trek Picard Season 3, Episode 9, Vox. Of course, major spoilers ahead, but you guys are too smart to click on this video without watching the episode first. Like, why would you do that? So, I was saying all last week, both in my review for episode 8 and then in the live stream that I did, that I really did not want it to be the Borg Queen. I was like, don't be the Borg Queen, don't be the Borg Queen, don't be the Borg Queen. And it's the Borg Queen. So, or more broadly, it's the Borg. The Borg Queen at least was not front and center. We didn't even get to see her face. But it's the Borg. And just the fact that it's the Borg is problematic, and I will get into it. I'll get into why I didn't want this to happen and why I'm disappointed that it did happen. But first, I want to take a step back, look more broadly at modern Trek as a whole, and go back to something that I talked about in last week's review, which is the problem of this mystery box format, primarily used by Picard and Discovery. Every single season of Picard and Discovery have used this, where everything hinges on what is the answer. If the answer is something really cool, then that reflects positively on the whole season. If the answer is something dumb or cliche or just something that I don't particularly care for that much, then that retroactively affects the whole season negatively. And I would say Discovery Season 4 so far is the only one that's been really successful in that. It's the only one that had an answer that I thought was really cool, and it had really good episodes getting to the answer as well, which a lot of these other seasons do have really good episodes getting to the answer, which includes Picard Season 3. But then you get to the answer and everything is hinging on whether or not this answer is any good or not. And that's a problematic format that Star Trek needs to move away from. And on the bright side, we do have Strange New Worlds and Lower Decks, each doing their own thing. They are not at all dependent on this mystery box format, and Lower Decks and Strange New Worlds are unique from each other as well. Now, Prodigy is an interesting case because when I think about it, it did use the mystery box format in its first season. However, it was better constructed and executed well, and the answer was cool, and I didn't feel as much that everything was depending on the answer. And also, I'm hopeful that Season 2 of Prodigy is going to move away from that format. The teaser that we got at the end of Season 1 for what Season 2 is going to be about doesn't seem to lend itself for the mystery box. So hopefully Prodigy can move away from that, and then we've got Strange New Worlds and Lower Decks, and then new shows coming in. Starfleet Academy show has been confirmed. Section 31 is apparently still going to happen, even though nobody really wants it, and I don't know how they're going to ever get Michelle Yeoh. But anyways, like that's going to happen. My dream of a Captain Shaw and 7 of 9 show died in this episode. I'll get to that a little later, but maybe we'll get a 7 of 9 show. But regardless, hopefully whatever new shows they bring on board, they've now moved beyond this need to get into the mystery box format. They can do take Strange New Worlds and Lower Decks as an example and do your own thing. Come up with something new and not have everything must depend on what the answer is. And so I'm kind of thinking of it sort of in a Marvel sort of way, like Picard and Discovery were Phase 1. The analogy doesn't quite work because that would mean Lower Decks Strange New Worlds was Phase 2 and kind of coming simultaneous with Phase 1. Prodigy also would be Phase 2. But so hopefully we can modern Trek will build upon itself and learn and continue to get better. And one of the big things they need to do is get away from this mystery box format. Now, that said, everything did hinge on the answer. And now that I'm really disappointed by the answer, I just think less of the whole season as a whole. Now, does that mean the season is ruined? No, because I still have those character moments, the emotional moments, the good member berry moments, the good nostalgia. There's a lot of good moments sitting down with the characters, and even in this episode, that I really enjoyed, and that can never be taken away. This season is clearly vastly superior to season 2 of Picard, but that was always going to be a low bar to clear. Is it, the greatest season ever of Star Trek, or is it something amazing? Is it the greatest thing since sliced bread? Absolutely not. Now it's gone back. I was really, really on board for much of the season, but again, it was all dependent on what the answer is, and now that I'm disappointed in the answer, it's like, I don't know. It's not as exciting as I once thought it was. So why am I disappointed in the Borg? Why did I not want it to be the Borg or the Borg Queen? Well, because it's been done to death. We've done the Borg a gazillion times. It really seemed like they were doing something new and inventive and creative by having this splinter group faction of the changelings, but we're now pivoting away from that and going back to the thing we've done a million, bazillion, gazillion, trillion times over and 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 over, including in Picard Season 1 and Picard Season 2, over and over and over and over and over and over and over. The Borg. It's old. I'm way over the Borg. I'm so over it. So instead of this inventive, cool thing it looked like they're doing, no, that's not what it was. We're just going to go completely away from that now. Never explain what happened to Odo's faction of the Changelings, because the Changelings all along were a red herring in this story. We don't really care about the Changelings from a writer's perspective. We only care about the Borg, because that's what apparently gets ratings. It sells movie tickets. Everybody wants to see the Borg all the time, so let's just do the Borg again and again and again and again and again, and screw doing something really cool and innovative and new with the Changelings, because that is now put aside, and we will definitely not find out what happened to Odo's faction of the Changelings, because the writers don't actually really care about that, and so that's extraordinarily disappointing for me. So now, my feeling on the whole season, again, not completely negative, but is like, So, I will give it some credit within this framework of the Borg or the answer. There was a lot of good suspense in it. I mean, that's pretty terrifying that all the young people are turning into Borg and all the starships are all being assimilated by the Borg. It's very high stakes. I felt the tension. So that was good, but within that, I still have this feeling in the back of my head, like, oh, this is a fucking Borg again. I will also give it credit for not hyper-focusing on the Borg Queen. We did that last season, so we didn't need to do it again this season. We don't even see her face. I don't even know who was playing her. They could have gotten Andy Wersching to do it again, because this was filmed before she passed away. But I assume they wouldn't want to do that just so to distinguish her, this Borg Queen, between this Borg Queen and the Jurati Borg Queen, which I still don't understand how the Jurati Borg Queen fits into anything, and I'm just choosing not to think about it. Let's just pretend that never happened, which this season seems to be doing, to its credit. Like, it's just pretending that doesn't exist. So that's fine. But yeah, I can understand why they wouldn't get Annie Wersching. Maybe they couldn't get either the previous two Borg Queen actresses. So in lieu of getting a fourth one, they just had like a voice of Curious to Hear who's doing the voice, and like we see the back of her head. So I do like that they didn't hyper focus on the Borg Queen, the worst villain in Star Trek history. But it's still problematic that the Borg is the answer for the reasons I have already stated. Um, so, also, as I alluded to earlier, disappointed in Shaw's death. I have slated him before the season started as the red shirt captain, although I expected him to die immediately. He made it all the way through episode 9 and had great character development, but in the end was still just a plot device to be killed off. And so that is disappointing as well. As you might be able to tell, this is a format like last week's format where I'm just kind of doing stream of consciousness and rambling because I don't have a lot of time to get this video out. So let's talk about Jack. We leave him very early on in the episode. We get the impression that he's being assimilated. His eyes are turning black. My assumption is that there's going to be more to it than that. Jack went there to kind of fight back and assert his independence and assert his, empathy and caring into the Borg. Hopefully we don't end up with another version of the Jurati Borg out of this, but I do think that Jack is going to prevail in some way and will play a key role in the finale because we do leave him pretty early on in this episode. And the fact that he's a really interesting character with a really good actor who did a great job has not changed. I still have really enjoyed this character, and the dynamics between him and his father, Picard, I think are light years better than that of the father and son duo that I've been constantly comparing them to, which is Kirk and David. I think there's a much more developed, much more complex relationship that they have together. So that hasn't changed. So Jack is a character that I'm rooting for, and I do expect that we will see him play a big role moving forward. So what else about this episode? We had some member berries, of course. Shelby coming back. That was an unexpected cameo. Shelby from the Best of Both Worlds, who appears to have been killed. It looks like she was getting a phaser in her last we saw her. That actually leads me to another issue that I have with this plot. Riker says, I can't believe that she, of all people, is excited about making the Federation more like the Borg. I would go so far as to say I don't buy that the Federation, that Starfleet, would make their fleet more like the Borg in that way. Now, the explanation could be, well, the changelings have taken over so much that it was their idea to begin with. Like, the changelings had come in a long time ago and then taken over Starfleet enough, so they're the ones who came up with this idea to make Starfleet into a Borg fleet. I think the changelings would have had to immediately take over all of the Admiralty, everybody in Starfleet, because there is no way there wouldn't be anyone, especially Shelby, who wouldn't go, excuse me, this is a terrible idea. So I don't buy that this could happen. I don't buy that they would make the fleet all like unified like the Borg. That would be the opposite of what they would ever want to do. And I don't buy that the changelings would have been able to infiltrate Starfleet that deeply, that long ago, that they would be the ones who come up with this. So I don't buy that premise at all. So that's another problem with the episode. Although, again, it was suspenseful, blah, 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 whatever. So I do have to talk about that ending. They did, I have to admit, they kind of brought me back out of my disappointment a little bit. And I did eat the member berries and enjoy them. Member berries. It was really nice seeing the Enterprise D again. And I can buy that they had to get the salsa section off of that, whatever that planet was from Generations, because of the Prime Directive, and Geordi slowly over time. I can't imagine he was just doing it all by himself like Geordi is. It's not like a car, but whatever. I'll buy it that they were able to recreate the Enterprise D. And of course, seeing that crew on that bridge again, being together again, and Some of the comedy that they threw in there. Worf was like, "I still prefer the weaponry on Enterprise E," and Troy was like, "Worf." So I do like that. Another little comic scene on the way there where Geordi said to Data, "Stop being so negative." And he's like, "I hope we die quickly." That's good. See, those moments still make this season good. Those kind of moments I could still hold on to, and at the end of this, feel like that this has not been a waste of my time completely, even though it uses that stupid format with the mystery box, and then the answer was very disappointing. I still think there's things I can hang my hat on at the end of the season. And honestly, I am very confident that we're going to get good emotional resolution at the end of episode 10, that we're going to finally get the true wrap up of these characters. All good things really did do that, but then we had the movies, and then we were just kind of left hanging after Nemesis. So I do feel like on an emotional level, we are very likely to get a good resolution to the story of all of these characters coming back together again years later. I think that emotionally, the ending of this episode worked for me, and I do expect that to be the case at the end of next week's episode too. I think on that level we are good, but on just the aspect of the storytelling, using the mystery box format, everything hinging on the mystery, and going back to the same thing we've done over and over and over and over, which is the Borg. All of that is going to make me think less of the season overall. So let me get my rating out of 10 for this episode. So maybe it won't be as low as you think it will be. I'm give this a 7. I mean, because of the good things that I can still hang my hat on, and I will say right now that this season overall is heading toward a solid 7, which is a much lower number than it would have been heading for had the reveal been something more inventive and creative than the Borg, had they followed up on the Changelings and shown us Odo's faction. I think there would have been a possibility of this being as high as a 9, the season overall I'm talking about, but the season overall is heading to a 7 right now, and I'll let you know if that changes, but I think that that's where it's going to land, and this episode is a solid 7. Not horrible, there were good things about it, but again, they're just doing the same thing over and over and over. And I'm so over the Borg, so over it. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Please join me next week as I review that finale, and I'll let you know how I feel about it. Please subscribe to my channel if you have not already, and I will see you really soon. Goodbye.